Your brain cannot always tell the difference between a real experience and one you imagine vividly enough. That's why an argument that never happened can still make you angry. A future success that doesn't exist yet can fill you with excitement. And a conversation that exists only in your imagination can leave you emotionally exhausted. The strange part? None of it was real. Yet your heart raced, your muscles tensed, your emotions reacted as though those moments had actually happened. If you've ever caught yourself replaying an old conversation, imagining the perfect comeback, daydreaming about finally proving yourself, or creating entire future scenarios that never actually happen, you're far from alone. In fact, your brain is doing something psychologists have studied for decades. But what most people don't realize is that this habit isn't really about imagination. It's about something much deeper. Your mind isn't simply entertaining itself. It's trying to solve a problem. Sometimes that problem is uncertainty, sometimes it's regret, sometimes it's fear, and sometimes it's an emotional need that never found a place to rest. That's why your mind keeps returning to conversations that never happened, relationships that never existed, or futures that may never come. Because every imagined scenario carries something your brain is still trying to understand. Some people replay arguments over and over. Others imagine becoming successful, admired, or finally appreciated. Some imagine worst-case scenarios before leaving the house. Others spend hours creating entire conversations while driving, walking, showering, or lying awake at night. Although these scenarios look completely different, they often come from the same psychological mechanism, one that quietly shapes far more of your life than you probably realize. The fascinating part is this: imagination itself isn't the problem. In fact, it's one of the greatest abilities the human brain has ever developed. Without it, we couldn't plan, we couldn't create, we couldn't solve problems, we couldn't prepare for the future. So why does something that helps us survive sometimes become something we can't seem to stop? Why do imaginary conversations sometimes feel more satisfying than real ones? And why do millions of people spend so much of their emotional life inside experiences that never actually happen? The answer begins with one remarkable ability of the human brain, an ability psychologists call mental simulation. And once you understand how it works, you may never look at your own thoughts the same way again. Psychologists call this ability mental simulation. It's one of the most remarkable things the human brain can do. Long before something happens, your mind quietly begins rehearsing it. Without you even noticing, your brain starts asking questions. What if this happens? What should I say? What if they reject me? What if everything goes perfectly? It's almost like your mind has created its own private movie theater, where it keeps testing different versions of reality. This ability didn't evolve by accident. Thousands of years ago, imagining the future helped humans survive. Before crossing a dangerous river, the brain imagined what could go wrong. Before entering unfamiliar territory, it rehearsed different possibilities. Those who could prepare mentally often survive physically. In other words, your imagination was never designed to entertain you. It was designed to protect you, and most of the time, it still does. Athletes visualize winning before a competition. Musicians mentally rehearse performances. Pilots repeatedly imagine emergency situations. Surgeons often walk through an operation in their minds before ever touching a patient. Your brain loves rehearsal, because every imagined experience teaches it something about the real world. But here's where everything begins to change. Your brain doesn't always know when rehearsal is over. Sometimes it keeps running the same simulation, again and again and again. The conversation that ended yesterday, the mistake you made 5 years ago, the interview that hasn't happened yet, the message you still haven't sent. Your mind keeps opening the same file, hoping that one more rehearsal will finally make you feel safe. But safety never arrives, because the problem was never the conversation itself. It was the emotion attached to it. That's why two people can experience exactly the same situation, and only one of them spends the next 3 days replaying it. The event isn't what keeps the loop alive. the unresolved emotion is. And once you understand that, you begin to realize something surprising. You were never addicted to imagining fake scenarios. You were trying to solve feelings. That reality never allowed you to finish processing. And that's where the psychology becomes even more fascinating, because not all imaginary scenarios are created for the same reason. In fact, most of them fall into three very different categories, and each one reveals something different about the emotional needs hiding beneath the surface. Although every imagined scenario feels personal, psychologists have noticed that most of them fall into just three common patterns. The first is the conversation you wish had gone differently. Maybe someone misunderstood you. Maybe they interrupted you. Maybe you froze, and only hours later thought of the perfect response. So your brain replays the conversation again and again, not because it enjoys the argument, because it's still searching for closure. Your mind keeps rewriting the ending, hoping that somewhere there is a version where you finally feel understood. The second pattern is almost the opposite. Instead of replaying the past, your mind escapes into the future. You imagine getting the promotion, standing on the stage, writing the book, building the business, finally hearing someone say, "I'm proud of you." At first, these fantasies feel inspiring, and sometimes they are. Visualization can increase confidence. It can prepare you for success. It can even improve performance, but only when it leads to action, because the brain is surprisingly easy to satisfy. The more vividly you imagine achieving something, the more your brain releases many of the same positive emotions you would experience after real success. For a brief moment, it feels as if you've already moved forward, even though nothing has actually changed. That's why some people spend years imagining the life they want, instead of slowly building it. Not because they're lazy, because imagination quietly gave them part of the emotional reward, without requiring the effort. Then comes the third pattern. And for many people, it's the most exhausting of all. Worst-case scenarios. Your phone rings. Your mind immediately assumes bad news. Someone doesn't reply. You imagine they are upset. Your boss says, "Can we talk tomorrow?" And before the day is over, your brain has already imagined losing your job, disappointing your family, and starting your entire life over. None of it happened. Yet your body reacts as though the danger is already real. Your heart beats faster. Your stomach tightens. Your thoughts refuse to slow down, because your brain believes that if it can predict every possible disaster, it can protect you from being hurt. But here's the cruel irony. Most of the pain never comes from reality. It comes from repeatedly living through realities that never happen. And that's why people with highly active imaginations often feel mentally exhausted, even on days when almost nothing happened. They haven't just lived one day. They've lived dozens of imaginary ones. So if you've ever wondered, why can't I stop imagining fake scenarios? The answer may be simpler than you think. Your imagination isn't broken. It's trying to protect you, to prepare you, to comfort you, to give you certainty in a world that rarely offers any. The tragedy is that the same imagination designed to protect you can slowly convince you that living inside your mind is safer than living your real life. But sometimes, the very tool designed to protect your peace becomes the thing that quietly steals it. And that's when imagination stops being a gift and slowly becomes a place to hide. So how do you know when your imagination is helping you and when it's quietly holding you back? That's where the final piece of the puzzle begins. Here's the part that changed the way I see my own mind. For years, I thought my imagination was the problem. I believed I needed to stop imagining, to stop overthinking, to stop replaying conversations, to stop dreaming about a different future. But psychology suggests something very different. Your imagination isn't your enemy. It's one of the greatest gifts your brain has ever developed. Without it, there would be no art, no inventions, no discoveries, no dreams, no plans, no progress. Imagination allows us to visit the future before we ever arrive there. The problem begins when we visit that future so often that we slowly stop living in the present. Because every hour spent inside an imaginary life is an hour you never actually lived. And here's something even more surprising. Your brain isn't asking you to stop imagining, it's asking you to notice why you're imagining. Every fake conversation is trying to tell you something. Not about the people in your imagination, but about the person imagining them. Every imaginary argument points toward an emotion that still needs healing. Every fantasy about success may reveal a part of you that still longs to feel worthy. Every worst-case scenario may simply be your anxious mind searching for safety. The question isn't, how do I stop imagining? The better question is, what emotion is my imagination trying to protect? Because once you understand the emotion, the endless scenarios often begin to lose their power. You no longer need to replay the same conversation because you've understood what your mind was searching for all along. You no longer need to imagine proving yourself because your worth no longer depends on someone else's approval. And you no longer need to prepare for every possible disaster because you've learned that uncertainty isn't something to defeat. It's something to live with. The mind will always create stories. That's simply what it does. But stories were never meant to replace your life. They were meant to prepare you for it. So the next time you catch yourself imagining the perfect conversation, the perfect future, or the perfect version of yourself, pause for a moment. Don't ask, why am I doing this again? Ask instead, what is my mind trying to tell me? Because perhaps your imagination isn't trying to pull you away from reality. Perhaps it's quietly pointing toward the parts of your life that still need your attention. And maybe the life you've been imagining was never meant to stay inside your head. It was always meant to be lived.